University of South Carolina. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's press conference as we formally introduce our new head coach, Shane Beamer. Today we will hear from University President Bob Caslin, Athletics Director Ray Tanner, and of course, Coach Beamer. After each makes an opening statement, we'll open up for questions. Please use the raise hand function and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Please mute your microphone when you aren't speaking. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the University of South Carolina President, Bob Caslin.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, let me tell you how excited I am to be here. Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here. I could not be more excited for today. Today is not only a day of great excitement, today is a day of great promise. We are so excited to welcome our next football coach, Coach Shane Beamer. We also are really excited to welcome his wife, Emily, his children, Sutton, Olivia, and Hunter. And I know they are going to be here as absolutely as soon as they can. So, Coach, I can't tell you right now how excited we are that you are now part of the Gamecock family once again. First, I would just say that how important that the year and a half that I've been here, that I have seen the importance of athletics to our university. It is so important to our fan base. It's so important to our alumni. It's so important to our students, our staff and faculty. It's really kind of woven into the culture of this entire university. Our fan base could not be more passionate and they could not be more excited about what it takes to have athletics here on the university and to have a winning program. America loves a winner. And America wants to be around a winner, and they want to win, and they want to win with excellence, and they want to win the right way. And I'm absolutely convinced that as we went through this entire selection process, that Shane Beamer is that coach. Coach Beamer has been mentored by the best. He has a wealth of experience. He knows the Southeast Conference. He knows the state of South Carolina and our neighboring states. He knows the recruiting activities that are going on in the Southeast Conference and in this particular state. And he's got the competence. And most important, I am absolutely convinced he has the character that will bring this program to a championship level. When I talk about and think about Shane's character, the first thing that comes to mind is trust. And I was anxious to hear the great words that he had when he was talking to the team yesterday about trust, and how trust is so tremendously important and it has to be earned, and that he wanted the opportunity to earn it. And when you talk about character, you talk about a culture that defines that character and the values that are part of that particular culture. Values of integrity, values of selflessness, laying it on the line for each other, values of excellence, and building that culture that no matter what, I will never want to let this team down. It's pretty clear that we all want a championship program here at the University of South Carolina. And I'll tell you, I am absolutely convinced, and I am more confident than I have ever been, that Coach Shane Beamer is the one that will get us there. So we are excited for today in a very special way. I could not be more excited as the president of the University of South Carolina. Coach Shane Beamer, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. We're not going to bring you up just yet. I want to now bring up a partner that has worked so tirelessly in this effort to bring on Coach Shane Beamer, and that's our incredible athletic director, Ray Tanner. So, Ray, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're grateful that you could participate. I want to begin by recognizing our president again, President Caslin, for embracing this process that we have gone through. He was with us every step of the way. He never missed an opportunity to visit with a coach that I visited with, and I'm very grateful that he took the time out of a schedule that you can, it's hard to believe the amount of things that he does in a particular day, but so I'm grateful for the time that you spent and the passion that you embraced this search. I'd also like to recognize our Senior Deputy Athletics Director, Chance Miller, who has also been with us every step of the way. He's done a wonderful job. He's an IT expert. He's a lawyer. He's a little bit of everything, but he's been a valuable asset as we've gone through this process. Also, Chad Chatlos. He's a managing director now of Turnkey Search. He was with us as we went through this process. I'm grateful for all the insight and the valuable information that he provided. I only had one rule for Chad when we engaged, is that every time I call, you answer on the first ring. He didn't do that every single time, and I'm going to have to hold that against him as we move forward. But also our board of trustees that supported our chair, Dr. Dorn Smith, that supported our process. They were not directly involved. It was just the people that I had mentioned, but they supported our process as we navigated to the day that we're here right now. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for those people and the amount of time and energy that they expended to get us to today to have an opportunity to introduce Coach Shane Beamer. I tell you, it just seems like yesterday that Coach Beamer was here on campus. It's been 10 years, and he made an impact while he was here as a coach, as a person, as a relational builder from his players, former players. He stayed in touch with many people here in our city and our campus community. He was widely respected. He's been to so many different places and done so many things. And I looked at his resume a little bit, and I asked him, I was looking at his coaching career, and I said, it appears to me that you started coaching just out of college. And he said that is correct. I proceeded to ask him, what happened to your NFL career? He said it was rather short. He said, I tried out, and they asked me, was I serious about trying out? So I thought that was good. But it's always good to get in the coaching ranks so early. He's been to a lot of different places. But I'll tell you this, in 21 seasons, he's participated in 17 bowl games. Out of the time he's been assistant head coach, associate head coach, position coaches, he has been very successful, a part of some programs that have achieved at a very, very high level. He played in a national championship game, and he coached in a national championship game. Of the 21 seasons that I mentioned that he was a coach at all Power 5 schools, that there was only 3 of those teams that had a losing record. So I know that as a person, Coach Caslin has referred to the outstanding characteristics with integrity, with passion, the enthusiasm, with everything that he stands for, what he represents, the affinity that he has for this school. And he's been away for quite a while, but he has a tremendous desire to be here. And it has not just started when I made the phone call to him about becoming a candidate in this search process. It has been evident for a long time. I appreciated his experience and what he's been through, the preparation. For a long time, he's been preparing to become a head coach. You look at his journey and where he's been and what he's done. And now he's assistant head coach at Oklahoma as they enter into a picture of playing for a Big 12 championship and what he's been able to do. I would also note that with 3 coaches that he's been with, when you talk about Kirby Smart, you talk about Lincoln Riley, you talk about Sylvester Croom at Mississippi State. All those 3 coaches were either first or second year coaches. So he knows what it's like to be in a situation where somebody hasn't been a head coach, but they have become one. That came up on a couple of different questions that you have here and there. I'm the least bit concerned. He's prepared for this day to become our head coach and to lead us to heights that we all aspire to be a part of. I know our fan base is excited. I did engage with our former players, the Lettermen. They were tremendously excited. We had a couple of Zoom calls. A number of them showed up here this morning outside the building. This is a COVID-free building, so we couldn't let them in. But Coach Beamer went outside. He went outside to have a visit with them, and I thought that was a tremendous gesture on their part. And I will tell you, as Coach Caslin did, I call him Coach because he's a former player, and he coached a little bit in college football. So we're excited to have Sutton and Olivia here with us, as well as Hunter and his wife, Emily. Sutton and Olivia were both born here in Columbia, so they're really coming back. They're really coming back to where their roots are. But for so many reasons, I feel very strongly that we found the man to lead our football program. Last night, as he was visiting with the team and their attentiveness and his remarks, they were engaged. And I think they're excited about moving forward with a man that cares deeply about them and about the success that they're going to have an opportunity to enjoy. So without further comment, it gives me tremendous pleasure to introduce the head football coach at the University of South Carolina, Coach Shane Beamer. Thank you. I'm going to wipe you down.
Thank you, Coach Tanner. Thank you, President Caslin. It's an absolute honor to be the head football coach here at the University of South Carolina. Today is an absolute dream come true, not just to be a head football coach in the Southeastern Conference, but to be the head coach at the University of South Carolina. In my dreams, I wasn't staring at a screen of reporters on Zoom, and we had a big room with my family and so many people in here, so that's a little bit different, but it certainly doesn't take away the excitement of being here in this position. I want to thank President Caslin, Ray Tanner, and Chance Miller for their belief and their faith in me. The interview process was very, very thorough, but I really, really enjoyed connecting with those guys. I told my wife the first time that Coach Tanner and Chance and I talked on the phone, I came home and I just told her, I said, there's something different about those guys, their vision, the way that we connected, the amount of time that we spent together on that phone call, the initial phone call, and then the interview was pretty special. And then having a chance to visit with President Caslin during the interview process as well. The fact that he's a huge football guy, played the game of football, is exciting for me. We are certainly aligned here, and it all starts with those guys at the top. I want to thank Coach Will Muschamp and the contributions he made to this program. Certainly a class individual and somebody that I have a lot of respect for that advanced this program and tried to do it for the right reasons. So I want to thank him for what he did for the University of South Carolina as well. To the former players here at Carolina, Coach Tanner mentioned that I had an opportunity to visit with a group of them this morning. I'm so appreciative for those guys coming by, being able to see old faces, guys I coached like Mo Brown, guys that I coached against like Ryan Brewer, Perry Orr, so many former players that came by to take the time to do that this morning. It was very, very special to me, and I'm thankful for that. I've heard from so many of them the last couple of weeks, and I told my wife when this process was going on that I didn't know how this thing was going to finish. But regardless of what happened, I would have been crushed if this thing didn't happen. But I told her just the amount of former players that I heard from during this time that reached out to me, or that I found out reached out to Coach Tanner and our administration to recommend me and jump on the table for me, was extremely, extremely humbling. It reaffirmed why I coach. Obviously, Saturdays are important. Wins and losses are what you're judged on, but the opportunity to have an impact on a young man's life and to have a guy like a Marcus Lattimore call me out of the blue and tell me stories of things that I barely remember that he talked about, conversations we had. A guy like a Connor Shaw driving home from work 2 weeks ago, and to have Melvin Ingram and Akeem Auguste FaceTime me just to catch up. Patrick DeMarco, Torrey Gurley, I can go on and on and on. Alshon Jeffrey, Stephon Gilmore. I've heard from so many of them over the last couple of weeks, and thank you. Thank you. This is your program. I'm honored to be your head football coach, but this is your program, and you guys laid the groundwork. You are always welcome here, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here. I've been blessed to be able to work for some great head coaches over my career. I've learned so much from all of them and taken a little bit from all of them as well. Starting with George O'Leary, who gave me an opportunity, my first coaching job back in 2000, right after college, when Coach Tanner told you that story. I did. It's a true story. I tried out went to our pro day at Virginia Tech, and I had one pro scout come up to me and say, "You're not serious about this, are you?" And then I had a second one come up to me and said, "What are your plans for next season?" Which obviously coaching or playing pro football wasn't one of them. So I got into coaching pretty quickly. I had an opportunity to work for Coach O'Leary at Georgia Tech. Philip Fulmer hired me and gave me an opportunity to get into the SEC at the University of Tennessee. Sylvester Croom, someone that other than my own family has had more of an impact on me than anyone in this world. A guy that was the first African-American head football coach in the Southeastern Conference and hired me at the age of 26 to come to Starkville, Mississippi and work on his staff for him is something that I'm still trying to repay to him all these years later. Seeing how he handled his program and the way that he built that program at Mississippi State, so thankful for that opportunity. To Steve Spurrier, who gave me an opportunity here in Columbia. If he hadn't hired me back in 2007, probably wouldn't be standing here today. But to be able to come back here with Coach Spurrier and work for him and learn from him and win a lot of football games, thank you, Coach, for that opportunity. To my dad, Frank Beamer, the former head coach at Virginia Tech, It was such a thrill for me. It was hard to leave here, but such a thrill for me to leave South Carolina and go work for my dad at Virginia Tech for 5 years. Thank you for the lessons I learned from you. To Kirby Smart, who hired me at Georgia on his first staff in Athens, a guy that I have immense amount of respect for. I consider a close personal friend and someone that certainly made me a better football coach in my 2 years with him in Athens. And then finally to Lincoln Riley. My family and I loved living in Athens, Georgia. Had a great time. We were winning football games. But when the 10th assistant coach rule came into effect in college football, Lincoln Riley reached out to me. And there's not a program in all of college football that I would have left to go be an assistant coach at other than the University of Oklahoma. And that was because of Lincoln Riley. I felt like I'd done a lot in my career. I had a lot of different roles, but the opportunity to go to learn from Lincoln and learn the offensive system at Oklahoma and how we do things for my family and I to get out of our comfort zone a little bit was an opportunity I didn't feel like I could pass up. And I've grown so much as a coach in the 3 years out there at Oklahoma. Not only have I learned a lot from a football standpoint, I gained a very personal, close personal friend. He and his wife, Caitlin, are phenomenal people. He's been a huge help to me throughout this process, answering questions, willing to work with me throughout this process and helping me learn how to be a head coach by watching him each and every day. And then the president, Joe Harris, the president at the University of Oklahoma, and Joe Castiglione, the athletic director at Oklahoma. Thank you for the time that you've spent with me. I've had multiple lunches with Joe Castiglione where he's allowed me to pick his brain and ask questions. And he's considered one of the finest athletic directors in the country, and to be able to learn from him has been really, really special. I want to thank the Oklahoma players. I wouldn't be here in this position without you guys. I've got 600 plus text messages on my cell phone right now from people congratulating me, wanting to come here and coach, different things. But so many of those text messages are from players at Oklahoma that have reached out to me and are excited for me. And thank you guys. I developed close personal relationships with the players that I coach. And as excited as I am about leaving or about coming to South Carolina, the opportunity, but the having to leave those guys is extremely tough and difficult. But appreciate you guys and all you're about. And then finally, my family. My in-laws, Steve and Sandra Gladney, back in Starkville, Mississippi. They are SEC through and through, and the fact that their son-in-law is live on SEC Network is probably the proudest day of their lives, certainly in our marriage, I'm sure. I hear them talk regularly about Paul Feinbaum and the SEC at football and this and that, and two great people, and I'm fortunate that they allowed me to come to Starkville, Mississippi and marry their daughter. To my parents in Blacksburg, Virginia, Frank and Cheryl Beamer, thank you for all you've taught me, the son that you raised me to be, and your constant support. For 21 years in coaching, I can always count on Thursday nights getting a phone call from my parents wishing me luck in that game on Saturday, my dad wanting to know what the game plan is and what we're thinking. And I can count on every single game, regardless of when that game ends, whether it be after midnight or early in the afternoon, within 5 minutes of that game being over, I can always count on a cell phone call from my mom, leaving me a voicemail, either congratulating us on our win or telling us tough loss and get ready to bounce back next week. My sister, Casey, Prater, lives in Charlotte, which I'm excited about getting back closer to her. Thank you for your constant support and being the best sister in the entire world. And then to my family back in Norman. My wife is born and raised in Starkville, Mississippi. And I took a job there in 2004. We got married. And within our first year of marriage, I came to her and I said, we're moving to Columbia, South Carolina. We have this opportunity. So we drove over to Columbia to look around. Coach Spurrier had already offered me the job. Wanted to make sure it was right for all of us. We didn't know anything about Columbia. I drove through here some in the summertime, and beyond that, I hadn't spent much time in Columbia. We spent the night, our first night in Columbia, a hotel off Bush River Road. That's all I knew about was a Bush River Road. And at that time, drove around the next day looking for a house. And little did we know that those 4 years would lead to 4 of the greatest years of our life, living here, the friendships that we made in our entire life. One thing my dad taught me in December of 1986, he became the head football coach at Virginia Tech. And he got up in his opening press conference and he thanked so many people, his brothers, his sisters, his parents, former coaches, just like I just did. And he forgot to introduce my mom, his wife. And I've always remembered that as I've been preparing for this day to make sure that I don't forget to introduce, or in this case, thank my wife. So leaving here 10 years ago was extremely difficult. I told my wife, I'll never forget having this conversation, that if we ever wanted to be the head football coach at Virginia Tech, or excuse me, if I ever wanted to be the head football coach at South Carolina, I felt like we needed to leave to go to Virginia Tech at that time and then ultimately come back. And I don't know if she believed me or not, but she went along, and we've worked for 10 years to get back to this place, this special place. And baby, we did it. We're back. But the dream doesn't end there. We're just getting started. But so thankful that you're my best friend, my partner throughout this. I'm sad you're not here today, but I can't wait to see you back in Norman. And then to my 3 children, Sutton, Olivia, and Hunter. You guys are going to be seeing a lot of them. They're going to be completely invested into this athletics program. We're going to be at every sporting event you can think of. We're going to be supporting Coach Staley, Coach Martin, all the different sports here at Carolina. We're excited about that. I was telling Coach Tanner in my interview process, my son, he's 7, for the last 2 weeks, that he knew about this opportunity. He knew about Carolina. Every single night when I came home, they would text me, "See, are you close to home?" I said, "Yeah, I'm about 5 minutes away." And lo and behold, every single night when I walked in the house, Sandstorm would be blaring in our kitchen, and my 7-year-old would be waving his T-shirt above his head. So no pressure at all on that one. But it was pretty cool to see when this thing came to fruition late Saturday night. I've still got some old Carolina clothes that I had from my time here. My kids put those on. They're excited about it, and can't wait to get them over here. Like I said, we're just getting started. I've had opportunities in my career to be a head football coach, but I've been in some great places along with some great coaches. And I wasn't going to leave just to go check a box to say that I was a head coach. It would have had to have been really, really special. The places that I've worked, the coaches that I've worked for, made that really, really hard to ever leave. But this is a dream job for me because you have everything in place to win here at the University of South Carolina. A state that I was born in, that I'm so proud to be a native of, the state of South Carolina. An amazing elite university here with unbelievable academics and great leadership. A growing state and a growing city that I'm excited about raising our family in this amazing city of Columbia, South Carolina. The facilities here, so much has changed in the 10 years since I left, but the facilities here are second to none. I've coached at a lot of different places. I've visited a lot of different schools, and the infrastructure that we have here from a facility standpoint, this building, Williams-Brice Stadium, everything that's continuing to grow. It's exciting to have those resources to be able to recruit here. The amazing fan base at the University of South Carolina. One of my earliest memories, my dad was the head coach at Murray State out in Murray, Kentucky, FCS program. He took the head coaching job at Virginia Tech in 1987. And one of my first memories to big-time college football was coming down here to a game at Williams-Brice and seeing Todd Ellis, who I so appreciate being here today, quarterback at the University of South Carolina, seeing Sterling Sharp out there, all the great players that he played against. Obviously, it didn't go well for Virginia Tech, but I just remember being blown away by the fan base, the size of Williams-Brice Stadium, just something about the Williams-Brice Stadium and the electricity in the air in those times down here, and it's always resonated with me. This is a job my dad spent time coaching in Charleston, South Carolina at the Citadel. And one thing that he always talked about during his entire career was how much he would love if the opportunity ever presented itself to be the head football coach at South Carolina himself. I still remember, God bless him, but I still remember Mike McGee coming to Blacksburg, Virginia, and sitting in our kitchen and interviewing my dad at one time about being the head coach at South Carolina. So that opportunity never transpired with him, but the fact that I'm standing here today is really, really cool, and things have certainly come full circle. But I remember those initial games in Williams-Brice Stadium. I've been in here as a coach for Carolina, and I've been in here multiple times in Williams-Brice Stadium as an opposing coach. And the atmosphere, the electricity, the passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none. And I am so excited about getting back out there, running out to 2001, listening to Sandstorm and all the different amazing traditions that we have here at Carolina with the greatest fan base in the nation is something that I'm really, really excited about. Excited about being a part of a program that has such a high expectation level of success throughout all sports. It's a top 25 athletics program with great leadership, like I talked about, that's won multiple national championships in a lot of different sports, and really looking forward to learning from the other coaches here at this great university and picking their brain on what makes them successful, and then supporting this this athletics program with my entire family. When I talk about the resources to be successful, you certainly have that with the high school programs and a recruiting base here in this state. It's always going to start with the state of South Carolina. I understand how important the high school coaches are in this state. My head high school football coach, Dave Christ at Blacksburg High School in Blacksburg, Virginia, the lessons he taught me as a young teenager in Blacksburg still resonate with me to this day, and the impact that the high school coaches have on players is strong. This isn't me reconnecting with any high school program, wherever I've been, since I left Carolina, whether it be Virginia Tech, whether it be Georgia, whether it be Oklahoma. I've always recruited this area, and I've always recruited this region. So it's really cool to have heard from so many high school coaches since this was announced that I'm looking forward to reconnecting with, and if you want to phrase it that way, and getting back in those high schools. This is a program that you're always going to be welcome at. I'm looking forward to visiting with you in your school. And once the age of this era of COVID is hopefully over soon, being able to get you guys in our building and having a chance to visit with you. I know some of you have questions about my time frame. I know it's been reported that I'm going to go back to Oklahoma and finish the season with those guys. And that's very important to me. Like I said, I have deep relationships with those players at Oklahoma, and I want to be loyal to those guys as well. And I don't want to sweep the rug out from under them and leave them high and dry with 2 weeks left in our regular season with another opportunity to win a Big 12 championship. I didn't think that was the right thing to do. I talked to the players on our team yesterday about trust, about communication, about loyalty. And I didn't think it was fair to me to have that conversation with those guys and then leave these guys high and dry out in Oklahoma. So I'm going to do 2 jobs here for a couple more weeks. It's a little bit easier to do in today's time because we're not able to get out on the road recruiting. It's obviously everything is shut down. So everything that we need to do from a recruiting standpoint, I can do from our phone. And that's what I will continue to do and finish out the season with those guys, and then look forward to getting back here as soon as possible here in less than 2 weeks back here into Columbia. And that was very well received by the players on our team yesterday. And when I told them that, I could tell the reaction was positive, and certainly that's what I want to do. So we're going to have a lot of fun building what I want to be the premier culture in all of college football. That starts with investing in the relationships with these players in this current team and getting out here and continuing to grow this awesome football program. And we're going to do that as it's already started. Haven't slept much here in the last couple of days. This thing was finalized late after midnight, after our game against Kentucky finished on Saturday night, and less than 9 hours later, I was on a plane headed to Columbia. So to all those 600 plus people that have sent me texts and called, I apologize that I haven't gotten back to you yet. I promise you I'm going to. I appreciate all of you reaching out. And like I said, I know I don't want to continue to stand up here and ramble. I know so many of you have questions, and just wanted to reiterate and say it one more time. It's an absolute honor to be the head football coach here at the University of South Carolina. To all of the Gamecocks that are listening and watching live, you have my word that we will work every single day to build a program that you are proud of. My last year here at Carolina, we got over to Atlanta and came up a little bit short in that championship game. And I will work tirelessly with my staff that we put together and our team to get back to Atlanta and finish the deal this time. To have a program that you are proud of with the way that we represent your university on and off the field. I have great pride in being from the state of South Carolina, and I have great pride in being the head coach of the University of South Carolina and representing this program, this state, and this university. It's extremely exciting for me. It gives me immense pride to put on a shirt with that Carolina logo. And we're going to have a team that you can be proud of that takes great pride in representing this university and having that Carolina logo on their helmet and on their jersey. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. I appreciate your time, and thanks for allowing me to say those few remarks.
Ben Briner from the state has the first question.
Hey, Coach Beamer, congrats on getting the job. Welcome back to South Carolina. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned a little bit about getting the chance to work with Coach Riley. Philosophically, schematically, what kind of offense and defense are you going to try to build here with the Gamecocks?
Well, it's one thing that I've learned from Lincoln is your system's got to be flexible enough where you can adjust it to the strengths of the players that you have. Our offensive system, for example, at Oklahoma, is a little bit different right now, or a lot different than it was this year with Spencer Rattler, our quarterback, than it was last year with Jalen Hurts, and then a little bit different than it was the year before with Kyler Murray. So you've got to have a system that's flexible enough to accentuate the positives and what you have to work with. I've watched Carolina play a lot this year on television. I was kidding with Todd Ellis earlier. For the last 10 years, every Sunday night, my wife and I, we've always recorded the coaches show, and just to keep up with Carolina football and what's going on. And so I got a pretty good idea about the players in this program and what we do well. But at the end of the day, we want to be tough. It starts with toughness, starts with being physical. Offensively, I know you've got to be multiple. You've got to have the ability to run and pass from a system standpoint. You've got to be able to do both. This league is too tough, and we will be able to do both. You got to be explosive. In today's college football, the name of the game is explosive plays. We've got to be able to create those through scheme and through recruiting, and we certainly will. But that's what we want to be offensively, and then defensively, you got to be multiple. Offenses are too good nowadays. The name of the game is scoring points, and I've seen that the last 3 years out in Norman. We'll be about that here at South Carolina for sure. And then from a defensive standpoint, you got to be multiple. You can't line up in the same thing every time and allow teams to attack you that way. You've got to be able to affect the quarterback on defense. And then you've got to be so good fundamentally sound. You've got to be great tacklers. And those are things that I believe in and we won't deviate from.
Mike Barber in Richmond.
Hey, Shane, congratulations.
Good to see some Virginia guys on here.
Yeah, you are obviously not an old man, but it feels like it's been a long wait for you to get this opportunity. Does it feel that way to you? And were you at all frustrated in how long it maybe took?
No, I'm a man of faith, and I know that God has a plan. And my wife and I were talking about it a couple nights ago, that so many opportunities that were presented that I didn't take, some opportunities over the last 20 years that frankly I wanted to get that I didn't get. And I'm so thankful that I didn't, because it led me here to this day. And I mentioned it a minute ago, and it's the truth. When I'm working at the University of Georgia, I'm working at the University of Oklahoma, I'm coaching for my dad at Virginia Tech. I'm coaching at some of the premier institutions in this country. And it would, as much as I wanted to be a head coach, I knew the timing had to be right. I was really pleased with the steps that I was taking and the roles that I was in to make that opportunity become a reality. And frustrated, no. Things happen when they're supposed to happen. And I'm very confident in that. And I can say this, Mike, I wouldn't have traded any of the steps that I've been on in my entire career because of, one, it led me back here today, but two, just the way that it's prepared me to be a head coach. The different roles that I've been in, the different experiences that I've had, the experience has been unbelievable. I'm 43 years old, and I've been the son of a head coach my entire life. And so I've seen that firsthand, what it's about. And no, I haven't sat in that chair, but I've seen pretty good way of how to do that.
Thank you.
David Cloninger, Post and Courier.
Hello, Shane. Welcome back.
Thanks, David.
No problem. How will you be organizing your staff? Will you keep any of the assistants that were here last year?
Yeah, we're going through that process right now. I met with every single coach on our staff yesterday. It was important for me to get over here early yesterday morning and have 2 full days to dive into all that. And it starts with the players in this building and the coaches in this building. There's some great coaches on this staff. There's some coaches on this staff that I've worked with either here at Carolina or at different places. It's Coach Muschamp had put together a great staff of men, coaches, and recruiters. And there's certainly some guys on this staff that I would envision being in our program going forward. It's got to be the right fit for them and for us as a program. But I really had some good productive visits on that. I'm going to take my time on that. I've been preparing for this opportunity for a long time, and in the interview process, I feel pretty confident that I've presented a thorough plan for the staff to Coach Tanner and President Caslin and Chance, and we'll see how that transpires. I've coached with over 100 different full-time coaches in my career at 7 different Power 5 schools. That's not counting graduate assistants and analysts. The amount of people, the attention that I've gotten from people that are interested in coaching here. I've gotten calls from 4 head coaches in the NFL in the last 3 days, not wanting to come coach themselves, but recommending people that they felt strongly about. So the amount of people that have expressed an interest in being here is really cool. It's a little bit different from a time frame standpoint because so many of these coaches are still playing their own seasons, and they have teams to coach right now as well. And I want to get it done as soon as possible. There's no question about it, but I'm not going to be rushed. We're going to put together a premier staff that's a perfect fit for Carolina.
Mark Berman.
You and Shane, congratulations.
Appreciate it, Mark.
As you've said, how does being the son of a legendary coach, not only as a son, but you played for him and you worked for him, how has that shaped you into the head coach standing here today?
So many ways. I grew up the son of a coach, obviously. You mentioned I played for him. You mentioned I coached with him. So the experiences I saw from him, not only at Virginia Tech, but at Murray State. And people that have followed college football for a long time know that Virginia Tech always wasn't always what it was when he finished his career. There were some early lean years in our time in Blacksburg. Sophomore year in high school, Virginia Tech won 2 football games. That was his 6th year at Virginia Tech. He never would have made it past the 6th season in today's time. The year before that, I believe they won 5. He never would have made it to a 6th season. But being able to see how he handled that, the ups, the downs, his consistency and steadiness day in, day out. I hope I've taken a lot of qualities from my dad, but that's one that I definitely hope I've taken more than any other, is just that steadiness and consistency that you've got to have as a leader when everyone's looking at you. And if you're high and low and on an emotional roller coaster, it's going to be tough. And he's certainly that way, and I learned that from him and saw so many good things. He tells the story all the time that when I told him I wanted to get into coaching, he said, "Are you absolutely nuts? You've been around this profession and grew up in it, and you've seen the highs and the lows and want to be a part of it." And I did. So he certainly rubbed off on me in a lot of ways, and the desire to coach and those qualities certainly were right at the top.
Pete Acabelli.
Hey, Shane, congratulations again and welcome back.
Thank you.
What you mentioned that your dad would not have been allowed to stay 6 seasons in today's environment. How quickly do you envision turning things around here?
Great question. Coach Tanner and President Caslin, they didn't hire me to come in here and present a 8-year plan or 5-year plan or anything like that. I'm a process-driven person, and we're going to get started day one, advancing this program and making it better. That starts with the current players on our team. It starts with recruiting, getting more and more guys in here, and just trying to advance this program and getting a little bit better each and every day. And I know it's cliche, but it's the truth. You can't think long-term. I'm trying to do everything that I can here, get this press conference, we'll finish this up, and then get right back on the phone with recruits and current players on this team and whatnot as well, and just move it forward a little bit more each and every day, and we'll get where we want to go, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later.
Rick Henry.
Hey, Shane, once again, congratulations and welcome home. During your time here with Coach Spurrier, what are some of the, I guess, the best lessons that you learned from him, or things that you can apply now that you're a head coach? And also, head coaches, based on their backgrounds, if they come from the offensive side of the football, that's where they're going to spend their most time. Or if it's defense, like with Coach Spurrier, people would come to practice and ask me, "Hey, where's Coach Spurrier?" I would say, look for the quarterbacks. And I was wondering, if when we're allowed to come back to practice, where will we find you on the practice field?
I see what you did there. Good to see you, Rick, and glad you're doing well as well. And great to have you on this call. I learned a lot from Coach Spurrier. I mean, he's a guy that I grew up watching with what he did at the University of Florida. So I still remember sitting at a restaurant having lunch in Starkville, Mississippi, one February day, and I got a cell phone call from an 803 area code, and it was Steve Spurrier calling to see if I was interested in coming to coach at the University of South Carolina. And what a surreal moment that was, and exciting as a guy that, as a fan of college football, grew up watching his Florida teams play, growing up in Blacksburg, Virginia, when he was the head coach of the Washington Redskins, and then had to have a guy of his stature call me and give me an opportunity was a really cool moment and a great opportunity, and learned so much from him. But really just the confidence and you guys know, the confidence and the swagger that he lived his life with each and every day, the competitive spirit that he had. I'll never forget going to play golf with him one day, and my first time. You guys know how he loves to play golf, and we went and played. The first time I ever got to play with him, I'd gone out the time before, and I played golf with a couple coaches and played pretty well, a little bit better than what I actually am. They came back to him and told him, "Coach, this new coach you just hired's a heck of a golfer. He just went out and shot this and beat us and all that." So obviously that perked us up, got his attention perked up pretty quickly. Went and played golf, and he put me up in the A group, as he called it, which was his first group and his foursome. And got out there. I was nervous as all heck, and didn't play well the first 2 holes. And by the time we got to the third tee box, he had kicked me out of his group, told me that I needed to go back and play with the F troop behind us. And that was kind of my first indoctrination to Coach Spurrier and what a competitor he is. But he's that way on the golf course, and he was that way on the practice field. And coaching quarterbacks, calling offense, he was all about competing in everything that he did. And that was a great lesson for me to see that, and just the confidence. The players fed off that. When your head coach has that confidence that Coach Spurrier did, they feed off of it, and they play that way. And that's one of many things I certainly learned from him. And he certainly hasn't changed. And it's an honor for me to be the head coach here at a place where he did such a great job.
Colin Taylor.
Hey, Shane, just first of all, congrats on the new job. And I'm curious, you mentioned recruiting. How has that gone over since you've been able to do it, and kind of what's been your pitch to either the guys you have committed in this class or the guys that you're now calling?
No, it's the response has been pretty amazing. A lot of these guys that we're currently recruiting at South Carolina, we were also recruiting at the University of Oklahoma, whether it be young men in this class that's about to sign, or young men in the 2022 class, 2023 class, and beyond. So I've got a good relationship with a lot of these guys, because we were also recruiting them at Oklahoma. So when my name got out and was mentioned as a candidate, heard from so many of those guys that expressed an interest at potentially coming here and joining me here in Columbia, which is exciting. More and more guys like that have reached out, continuing to figure out our plan going forward with the current commits in this class. Looking forward to getting on the phone with the rest of those guys. I've talked to a lot of them, and we'll continue to, the ones that I haven't been able to get in touch with. And like I mentioned it, just the amazing resources here and what this place has to offer. Amazing fan base, amazing city to live in, amazing state to represent, elite academics. You have everything. People talk about it's maybe a struggle to win at Carolina. Or why can't you win at Carolina? And you absolutely can. You have everything that you absolutely need to win here. We've done it before at a high level, and we're going to get back to that. I take great pride, like I said, in that Carolina logo on my chest, and what this program and what this university means, and can't wait to get out and attack recruiting each and every day, and work the competition, and get high character, competitive guys that want to be in here and want to represent the University of South Carolina in this program.
Gene Sapakoff.
Hey, Shane, congratulations. You said you wanted to build a premier staff. Do you have a commitment from the university that you can spend money that would be at the high end of the SEC scale in building your staff? And then also, the last few years, South Carolina's had a very small staff of analysts. Would you like a larger staff of analysts, and what kind of resumes would you be looking for that gig?
No, there's my conversations with Coach Tanner and our leadership. We went through everything. We went through staff. We went through support staff. The investment has been made and given to me to give us every opportunity, every resource that we need to be successful. I've been around different aspects and spectrums when it comes to support staff, recruiting departments, and all that. Some programs where you have more than you know what to do with in a lot of ways, to the very smallest scale where it's the bare minimum. So I've seen both work, and we're going to do what's the best fit for Carolina, but I'm confident that anything that we need to advance this program forward and give us what we need to be successful, those assurances have certainly been given to me.
Joe Gorchow.
Hello, Coach. Congratulations and welcome back to Columbia. What I want to ask you is that this team, especially the last couple of seasons, has struggled to find ways to win. So I'm wondering, when you take over a program like this, how do you establish confidence in that winner's edge to find the results on the field?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday in the team meeting. I'm big on competition, and we want to compete in every single thing that we do. We want to compete in off-season workouts when our guys get back and get into the weight room. We want to compete, obviously, on the practice field. We want to compete on the game fields on Saturday. But we also want to compete in the classroom. In everything that we do, I want to be about competition and being elite in all that we do and being the very best in all that we do, and learning how to win, and learning that developing leaders, all that stuff leads to winning. And there's no question as we attack each day and try and move this thing forward with constant improvement that we will learn that and put ourselves in position to be extremely successful.
Greg Hadley at the State.
Hey, Coach, congratulations. I was just curious, you mentioned the coaching timeline, putting that together, and how some of those guys are still working and recruiting and still going to Oklahoma. How chaotic are these next few weeks going to be for you?
Pretty chaotic. I haven't slept much since this thing was finalized, which is a good problem. And there's a lot to get done. But Coach Tanner was telling me earlier this morning an old Jim Valvano theory that you have 3 8-hour shifts in a day. And that's how we're going to attack this thing. Coach Riley and I have talked about it, and with our schedule that's set up at Oklahoma, certainly is very conducive to allowing me to do what I need to do as the head coach at South Carolina in the afternoons and evenings, and being able to do 2 different jobs. I saw Kirby Smart do it when he became the head coach at Georgia when they were working for a playoff or in the playoff and for a national championship. So it's a little bit different. The time frame's certainly different, but it's going to be chaotic. I don't think there's enough hours in the day to do everything that we need to do. But one thing Lincoln told me yesterday is just compartmentalize things and get a thing what you have to accomplish each and every day and try and attack that. You can't do it all at once, and it'll be chaotic, but I'm excited about it and have a great group of people around me here in this facility to help me with that, and we'll get it done.
Eric Boynton.
Yeah, Coach, congratulations. Do you have to kind of settle in to a little time at South Carolina before and to take a look around and see what needs to be fixed? Or do you arrive in there with a plan in mind, certain steps, a certain process of just what it's going to take to get this program turned around as quickly as possible?
No, I mean, I certainly trying to get in here and learn as much about the program as I can. I've been following it from the outside for the last 10 years and have a pretty good sense of what's in this program and where we are. But until you're sitting in that chair and until you're actually in this building and right in the middle of it as the leader, you're certainly going to find things. So I absolutely have a plan of how we're going to attack this and my vision going forward for sure. But then you learn something each and every day and utilize that and learn from it and grow. And that's what we're certainly going to do each and every day as this process gets rolling.
Mike Yuba.
Hey, Shane, welcome back to Columbia. Greg kind of asked you the question before in terms of and I know you talked about it at the beginning, in terms of balancing and finishing things out at Oklahoma. Does it make was it the decision a little bit easier this year in terms because of the recruiting and not being able to go on the road? Would that have changed things up for you a little bit? As well as, did you have a conversation with Ray Tanner about this before today?
We did. Coach Tanner and I, we talked through different scenarios throughout the interview process. The multiple times that we visited, we talked about different scenarios, what ifs, things like that. So we had a plan for every different scenario from an Oklahoma standpoint, from a South Carolina standpoint. We talked about it all and felt confident with the plan that we put together. And that's a good question. Obviously, it makes it easier because whatever I'm able to do from a recruiting standpoint is the same thing that any coach in this country is able to do right now from a competitive standpoint. They're not going on the road. And if this was a contact period where you are, it certainly would change things because I would need to be in living rooms tonight without a doubt, and living rooms yesterday and so on and so forth. So it is different and fortunate that things work out the way they did, where as crazy as 2020 has been and as crazy as the different scenarios are with not being able to do things, that it makes this transition not easier, but a little bit more conducive to be able to do 2 jobs at once.
And Shane, I have to ask you one more question. Does Beamer Ball belong to your father, or is Beamer Ball coming to Columbia now?
There's certainly going to be aspects of Beamer Ball. I think that's probably copyrighted up in Blacksburg. But when you talk about Beamer Ball, you talk about the attacking, you talk about the ability to score on offense, defense, and special teams is what I think about when somebody says Beamer Ball. So we may not use the term Beamer Ball exactly, but playing that way and having that aspect as a part of our program is certainly something we're going to be about and opportunistic and attacking constantly whoever's on the field for us.
Phil Kornbluth.
There we go. Hey, there we go. Hey, Shane, congratulations, and good to see you once again. I got three quick ones for you. It looks like, based on their Twitters, that Travaris Robinson and Kyle Krantz might be moving on. Can you confirm that, number one? Number two, if South Carolina is asked to play in a bowl game, is that something you want to do? And then number three, Clemson. When you left here, things were pretty even between the programs. Perhaps the Gamecocks were well ahead. It's kind of flipped since you've been gone. What are your plans about attacking the so-called Clemson problem for the Gamecocks?
Three questions, Phil, from one end of the spectrum to the other. I see a lot of things haven't changed in the 10 years since I left. Let me back up. The first one. Conversations that I had with our coaches yesterday, I'll keep between us and the coaching staff. There's certainly some things that are open-ended and want to keep those conversations private, and that's certainly between us. In regards to a bowl game, that's probably a better question for Coach Tanner and President Caslen. But I know for me, if South Carolina is playing in a bowl game, it would be a great resource, great opportunity for me to be able to come over. I would not coach in the bowl game, but at least have a chance to get around here and watch our guys practice and see what we're about on the field. Bowl games are always good because in a lot of ways it's an extra spring practice. You get a chance to get out there and develop young guys and continue to move this program forward. So if we're able to do that from my standpoint, I think that would be great. And you mentioned that program in the upstate, and they're certainly on a pretty good run right now. But when I was here before, we were on a pretty dang good run ourselves against those guys as well. And it's a big challenge, and we're going to work every single day in recruiting in this facility to have a team that we can be proud of on the field, and that'll result with the way we play, the way we play on the field, and certainly great respect for those guys. But looking forward to getting in there and competing. I know that for a fact.
Josh Kendall.
Hey, Shane. When you talk about the preparations that you've made to become a head coach, what did that look like? Is that a bunch of binders in your house? Is that scribbling stuff down on napkins or putting notes in your phone? What was the process?
The above. For one, I would say the roles that I've had, Josh, have prepared me for this opportunity. I've coached offense, I've coached defense, and I've coached special teams. So I've got a pretty good knowledge of all three phases in football. When you're the special teams coordinator, you have to manage an entire roster, not just the positions, the guys that you coach or your side of the ball. You have to have relationships with, if I'm coaching tight ends, I've got to have a relationship with the linebackers coach, the defensive backs, the defensive line, the offensive line. The special teams coordinator is the only coach other than the head coach that stands in front of the entire team and talks. So that won't be the first time. Yesterday wasn't the first time I ever did that as an assistant coach. I've been a recruiting coordinator. When you're the recruiting coordinator, you have experience. You have to manage a roster. You have to evaluate talent. You have to manage a coaching staff. You have to manage roster numbers. I had that experience. Growing up the son of a coach, like you talked about, those experiences. I've been an associate head coach. In December 2014, my dad had some health issues that prevented him from coaching for an entire month and coaching in a bowl game. So for an entire month, I was the acting head coach of the football program at Virginia Tech. I ran staff meetings. I ran practices. I put together game plans. And then we went out there and beat a great Cincinnati team in the Military Bowl. So having that experience was beneficial. In those duties as an associate head coach, doing a lot of things like media, fundraising, discipline, a lot of those aspects I've got experience doing in my role with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma as the assistant head coach for offense, continuing to grow that as well. And then I'm a meticulous note taker. Kim Fields, who is our assistant director of operations here at South Carolina, is an absolute rock star. Kim was here when I was here before, and back in 2007, I started keeping a binder of just ideas if I ever got this opportunity. Kim helped me put it together and started typing it, and I still carry the same binder to this day. It definitely needs to be updated from when she started it back in 2007. But it's just thoughts when it comes to discipline, team travel, nutrition, weight room, coaching staff, motivation, you name it. I've been putting things in that. And And then every team meeting, every staff meeting that I've been a part of in my coaching career, I've got notes on. So being able to refer back to that and a binder or an iPad Pro or whatever it might be is right there. But until you're in that chair, you can prepare all you want. When you sit in that chair, it becomes very, very real, and you realize that. But the way that I prepare myself, I'm certainly confident in my ability to do that. And like I said earlier, I wouldn't have traded my path to this day and the roles that I've had for anything.
Dick Cox.
Hey, Shane, congratulations. Welcome back to South Carolina. 2 quick questions. First one, do you plan to have your father involved in any capacity in your program? And number 2, projected that South Carolina could possibly be invited to play Virginia Tech in a bowl game. What would be your thoughts on that?
Wow, I hadn't heard that. That'd be pretty amazing. Things certainly come full circle. So we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, Coach Tanner and I talked about that with my dad and his role. And obviously we want to do everything within NCAA rules clearly. But Coach Tanner brought that up during the interview process. And without speaking to my dad, I promised Coach Tanner that my dad would certainly be involved heavily in the program. So the minute that, or shortly after that 5.5-hour interview that I had with President Tanner or President Caslin and Coach Tanner and Chance finished, I called my dad and told him how it went. And I said, look, I'm sorry, but I may have spoke for you and promised something that I can't get back out of. But no, he's all for it. He loves this place. He enjoyed coming here to visit. When we lived here before, I still rely on him and his expertise to this day. Still call him and ask advice, whether it be X's and O's questions or just football leadership questions. And Lincoln was very accommodating to my dad when he came out to games at Oklahoma, to practices at Oklahoma, allowed him to sit in meetings. And I certainly want him involved in our program as well. I don't know how much it'll be because of me or because he's got 3 grandchildren that'll now be living in Columbia and then 3 grandchildren that are in Charlotte with my sister. So whatever excuse we got to use to get him down here and the great golf courses in this area, I'm pretty confident that you'll be seeing him a lot around this program.
Let's go to Marty Smith.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you, my friend. Long way from Giles High School and Blacksburg High.
Long way from
back in the
Friday Night
days.
Lights, brother. We're just all so thrilled for you, man. I know you haven't been on campus but 30 hours or whatever it is, but as this thing materialized, I imagine you started to dig in a little bit at what assets you have at your disposal. I wonder, going in, what do you believe is the greatest obstacle that you face, and what assets most excite you?
As far as obstacles, I don't look at it that way. I just see great opportunities and great things in front of me. And the resources here, the way this program is positioned to have success from a resource standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, from the recruiting base around us, from what Coach Tanner and the administration have given me to allow us to be successful, it's exciting. And, I don't see any negatives. I see just so many awesome positives and opportunities in front of us to get out there and go attack. And the support of our former players, the support of the Carolina family, it's special and it's different. I've coached at so many places in my 21-year career, and this is a unique place in so many amazing ways. And it's why my wife and I wanted to come back here so much because of we know how special it is and what it can be. And that's exciting to see. I mean, the emotions that we felt as a family watching Coach Tanner win a College World Series on television, wishing we were there, to watch Dawn Staley and the success she's had, Coach Martin in the Final Four run a couple years ago. And then to see the reaction and the love and the passion from the fan base here at Carolina, you want to coach at a place like that has that something special, unique, and we certainly do. And this passionate fan base is second to none, and can't wait to be a part of that.
Michael Lanana.
Yes, sir.
Michael Lanana. You're in mute, Mike.
Thank you. Hey, Shane. Congratulations on the job, first of all. I remember meeting your father maybe 7 or 8 years ago when I was an intern at an ACC magazine. And I think what struck me about him was when he'd walk into a room, just the level of admiration people had for him, just kind of the prestige that he had. But at the same time, he felt like he was authentic. You know, he would joke around with you. He just seemed like an authentic person. For you, as you're starting as a head coach, how important is just establishing that kind of character, you know, projecting that kind of prestige and that aura, but also just being yourself too? Just how do you balance that and how do you do it?
Great point, and I appreciate you saying that. And you're so right. That was probably one of the other amazing lessons I learned from him was just how you treat people. From he and my mom both, and as successful as he was as a head coach, I say this all the time, and it's true. He was the exact same person when he coached in the national championship game and was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame a few years ago, as he was back in 1992 when he won 2 games and was almost fired. The success never changed him. The way that he treated people never changed. I saw that, and it's real because people recognize authentic, and that's what we're going to be. If I got up there in front of the players yesterday and I knew it was naive of me to sit up there and tell them that they needed to trust me and all this. They didn't come to play football here at South Carolina for me. They came to play for Coach Will Muschamp and his staff. But what I told those guys is I was always going to be truthful with them. I was always going to be honest. I was always going to be real, and I was always going to be genuine. And I will work to earn their trust each and every day, and it's the absolute truth. And people see through phoniness, and if I got up here right now and tried to be somebody that I'm not, it's not going to work. You know, whatever your style is regardless of how I've prepared and coaches I've learned from and coaches I've been around, I've got to be Shane Beamer, and that's what I'm going to be. And people see that, they see that authenticity. I saw that from my dad, and that's very much what I'm about also.
Cam Gaskins.
Hey, Coach, Cam Gaskins, ABC Columbia. You mentioned earlier about the recruiting successes that you had your time at South Carolina. We all know what those guys went on to do here. As you're kind of looking for that next group of impact recruits to hopefully bring South Carolina back to that level of success, what's at the top of that list of what you're looking for out of the guys you're bringing into this program?
To me, guys that want to be here and guys that want to represent this great program and take great pride in being a football player at the University of South Carolina. I told the players yesterday how a core value that is very big with me in my life on and off the field is gratitude, and how grateful I am for this opportunity that's been given to me to be the head football coach here. And I want a team that feels the same way and understands what an amazing opportunity and how special it is to be a Gamecock. That's what I want to begin with is guys that want to be here. And then obviously every position has physical attributes that you're looking for. But at the end of the day, if you have a bunch of guys that are high character, extremely competitive, and have a passion for playing football, the rest of that stuff will take care of itself. So those are guys that we're going to those are the guys that we're going to target. Those are the guys that we're going to recruit, and have a bunch of guys out there that are as grateful to be a Gamecock as I am.
Hale McGranahan.
Hey, Coach, sort of on that subject, what are going to be some of the areas that you'll try to focus on and recruit? Obviously, in-state is a big one, but what some of the other states and regions around the country that you think will be your footprint?
Well, there's players, and I've always recruited this region and have a lot of ties. And I've recruited North Carolina, I've recruited South Carolina, I've recruited Georgia, I've recruited Florida, I've been in Tennessee recruiting. Obviously, I'm from Virginia. We've had a great amount of success with players from Virginia and Washington, D.C. and Maryland, and that's an area that I want to continue to tap into. And I say that I've heard from a lot of high school coaches. I've heard from a lot of high school coaches too in Virginia and the surrounding areas as well that either I played with in college or have known for a long, long time. So it's exciting to have those guys reach out. And then a great experience for me too was being at Oklahoma. University of Oklahoma is in a state that doesn't produce a lot of Power 5 football players each and every year. So because of that, we had to recruit nationally at Oklahoma. So I was able to develop ties really anywhere throughout the country, recruiting players for OU. It never stopped here in this area. We're always going to start in South Carolina. We saw the foundation was laid here 10 years ago with great players from this state. So we're always going to start right here in this state with the great high school football players, the great high school programs, and the amazing high school coaches. But then my connections in these surrounding areas as well is one that we're going to dive into. And we're in a great location, close to so much. If you talk about a 3-hour radius, 4-hour radius just around Columbia, there's so many great players in here, and there's absolutely no reason why a guy would not want to come play football here at the University of South Carolina. And if you're a guy in this state, if you're a young man in this state, understanding that you can accomplish all of your goals on and off the field right here in Columbia, and you don't have to go anywhere else to do that. That was what we talked to Alshon Jeffrey about when I sat in his living room when we were recruiting him. That's what we talked to Marcus Lattimore about. That's what we talked to Stephon Gilmore, Devontae Holloman. We talked to all those guys about that. I can go on and on. I know I'm leaving a ton of guys out, but it's true. And that certainly hasn't changed. And if anything, it's only increased that opportunity and the possibility to do that because of what's been built around here and the way this program's been advanced.
And obviously, a lot of college coaches use some sort of a hashtag or whatever online to signify they've gotten a new guy. Have you already come up with something along those lines, or will you stick to what's been used around here recently, or have you?
We're going to work on that. Obviously, we've got amazingly talented guys in this building, guys like Justin King and his staff and our recruiting department. We'll figure out the best way of going forward. We plan on using that quite a bit as we get this recruiting going for sure, and want to do something that's good for all of us. And that's certainly one of the things that we need to attack going forward and figure out a plan on that.
Mitch Brown.
Coach, obviously outside of the SEC schools that you've been able to coach at, you've got relationships at Oklahoma, relationships at Virginia Tech as well. Are those schools that you would like to play down the road while you're here? And then also, you've been in Columbia for a while, so people need to know, are you a Russia's guy or are you a Zesto guy?
Good question. I may plead fifth on that one and just not answer that. We've got a lot of great restaurants that we love here, and we've spent a lot of time as a family in Columbia or driving through Columbia on the way to the coast and different places during the summertime. And we've certainly got some of our favorite places that we love to eat, and both of those are some of them, as well as along with the many other restaurants in that as well. And I'm sorry, what was your first question, Mitch? I apologize.
It was just, you have the relationships at Oklahoma and Virginia Tech. Are those schools that you would like to schedule games with down the road?
Yeah, well, Coach Tanner and Chance Miller, they've done a great job of scheduling us out, for the immediate future and our future opponents, which I'm excited about, and teams in this region and some natural rivals, which I'm certainly excited about as well. And as we dive into that, we'll play anyone, anywhere, and we're excited about that and excited to going to compete. And we'll work with Coach and Chance and our administration on any future opponents as well, what's best for Carolina. And I know there's some games, I believe, that haven't been announced that are going to be exciting as well going forward that I'm certainly looking forward to also.
John Whittle.
Hey, Shane, congratulations. I'm curious, what kind of qualities are important to you when you look to hire assistant coaches? And if you could kind of specifically speak to the coordinator positions about what qualities are important there.
Yeah, I want guys on this staff that have a lot of the same values I do. Guys that, I want high character guys. I want good people that are in this program, that are investing in our players' lives each and every day, that are setting great examples of the kind of husbands and fathers they are to their own families if they have families. And that's high character to begin with. You're not going to get in the door if you're not with me. I want great teachers. X's and O's knowledge, great recruiters, elite recruiters is what we're looking for, and a group of guys that are driven and are not complacent and have a passion for this university and advancing this program like I do. And then in regards to the coordinator roles, a lot of that goes back to what I mentioned earlier, just as far as the style of play that we're looking for and what's best for our program. Guys that are able to adjust. Got to have great knowledge of X's and O's and different systems, and guys that are proven and have a track record of doing it at a high level for a long time is what I'm looking for.
Travis Wells.
Hey, Shane, congratulations.
Thanks, Travis.
You talked about all the different roles you've had in your career. I want to go back to maybe your first role that we talked about a few years ago, rolling that cable and practicing rolling the cable and plugging it in your garage, and just how that experience, as mundane as it may have seemed, kind of shaped just your meticulous approach to every aspect of the game and learning this game.
Yeah, what Travis is referring to is when my dad became the head coach at Virginia Tech, I wanted to be on the sidelines in the worst way. We moved there when I was 10 years old and was told that I couldn't be on the field during games unless I had a role. I wanted to be a ball boy, and I was told, well, we got ball boys. You're too young to do that. I wanted to be a trainer and hand out water, and they said, well, we got people for that. You can't do that either. So they eventually came up back in the days of headphones that still had cords or cables to them. I was able to become the cord carrier. So I wanted to do a great job of that. Was very meticulous, still am to this day, very detailed. So I went out in our garage in Blacksburg, Virginia, and got a long extension cord. I just plugged it into the wall, and I just walked around the garage practicing the headset cable, because I didn't want to get out there on Saturday and screw things up and mess anything up. But I appreciate you saying that, because it was. I hope I've maintained those qualities since that day of wanting to do a great job. That no detail is too small. And I know I keep quoting things from my dad, but one thing he always talks about still to this day is take care of the little things, and the big things will follow. And so many of you guys that have followed Virginia Tech over the years, I'm sure have heard him say that, and it's true. And how those details become big things, and it represents everything, whether it be plugging a cord into the wall of our garage when I was 10 years old, or whether it be how clean the locker room is downstairs in this football facility, or if we're all supposed to be wearing white socks, we're all wearing white socks, or whatever it may be, that we all look alike. The little things are important. We're uniform and detailed and disciplined in all that we do. And then that carries over to the big things and allows you to have success. Thanks, Travis.
Excellent.
We still have 8 questions in the queue. So if you're not already in the queue, we're going to cut it off after that. Kyle Thomas with the next one.
Coach, first of all, congratulations and thank you for doing this, sir. Talk to me about the culture that you hope to foster and create in this program this year.
Yeah, this my vision and core values that I'm big on. I mean, I talked to the players about this yesterday. Is love, and it may sound corny, but love and each other, loving this university, loving this team. And when you have that love within a football team, it resonates. Gratitude's very big with me, and being grateful for being here. I'm a positive person. I'm a positive energy guy. High energy on the practice field, high energy the way that I live my life, and I want to be around people that have those same qualities. So that's something that I hope people see with this program. And trust is big with me. President Caslin talked about it earlier, and it's true. Working hard to earn that trust of the players on this team, our fan base, our coaching staff. That's what we're going to be about to you guys. And all that stuff. It starts with discipline. It starts with leadership, and we've got to develop leaders on this football team. And excited to get into our off season when our guys get back on campus for good in 2021 and develop that leadership and being able to instill a lot of those core values and some other ones that are very big with me to allow us to move forward and have success. But I want a program that plays with great joy and great passion on Saturdays, and that you see that in the way they live their lives also day in, day out.
John Del Bianco.
Shane, thanks for doing this. Welcome to Columbia. Congratulations. How much of this roster are you familiar with already, given, you've said that you're very familiar recruiting these areas, and that's where a lot of these kids are from? Yeah, very much so. I mean, I've Coach Riley and I came over here trying to recruit Jordan Burch and Boogie Huntley when they were over at Hammond, and we tried to recruit Zach Pickens when I was at a previous school as well. So Marshawn Lloyd, I was familiar with recruiting that area at other schools that I've been at. So familiar with the roster because we tried to recruit a lot of the same guys and knew of these guys, whether we recruited them or not. Jaheim Bell on the team here right now was somebody that took a visit to Oklahoma. So I know a pretty good amount about these guys. I've tried to follow Carolina as much as I can, like I talked about, whether it be watching it on TV or watching coach's show each week and things like that. And, I've got a pretty good idea of what's on this team right now, but being able to get in here and watch video on these guys. But at the same time, it's a fresh start as well. This is 2021 is a new football season, and I really don't care what's happened here in the past. I really don't care what's been done on the field from that standpoint. We're moving forward. And it's a fresh start for all of us, and can't wait to get this thing started with these guys, whether I knew them during the recruiting process or just met them yesterday. Thank you. And if I could follow up for Steve Fink, is Ray Tanner going to be available to answer any questions after Coach Beamer wraps up?
Yes, we'll make her available.
Great. Thank you.
Ben with the next one.
Shane, I wanted to ask, how much of a challenge is it having to kind of, with the coming easements of transfer restrictions, how much of an emphasis is it re-recruiting and getting, the current roster to stay on board with, how that world's going to change, and how does that kind of operate when you're also going to be in Oklahoma for at least the next few weeks?
No, great question. It's certainly a different time and unprecedented when it comes to college football, and 2020 is crazy in itself. And then with what you're referring to as well, it certainly makes it a lot different. And I don't look at it as re-recruiting. It's getting to know these guys and making sure they understand what I'm about as the head football coach, and what this program is going to be about, and talking to them about this program and how we're going to go about things each and every day. On and off the field. We talked yesterday about being demanding, that it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard work. That's what it takes to get where we want to go. It's going to be demanding. We're going to hold these guys accountable. It's not just going to be words on a wall. It's going to be the way that we live our lives every single day, and we're not going to deviate from that. And we're going to have the right guys that want to be a part of that culture, want to be a part of that program for those reasons. And the response I got from those guys that visited with me right after that meeting was really awesome. And then the guys that I talked to on the phone last night, it's continuing to just get to know these guys and understanding what we're going to be about going forward. And we'll have the right guys that'll be here for sure. And being able to do that in Oklahoma, a lot of our guys, they're finishing up exams, obviously, and they got to finish academically. They got to finish everything strong. But a lot of these guys aren't in Columbia right now. They've gone home at this point. So it's not like the team's in the building and I'm missing out on an opportunity to visit with those guys. I'm talking to them on the phone. I met with them all yesterday, and I'm not just going to go back to Oklahoma and not talk to them again in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be communicating with these guys throughout and be consistent about that.
Colin Taylor.
Yeah, Shane, two questions for you. You kind of mentioned that 5.5-hour interview, and just when you met with them and Ray Tanner, what was the plan you laid out? What does the plan for success look like to you? And I guess there's a video of you circulating naming that tune with your dad at Virginia Tech. I'm curious, what does a pregame playlist look like for Shane Beamer?
That's a good question. As far as the interview process, that Coach Tanner can probably, talk more about that when he gets up here and talk about things from that. But we just talked about the things that I believe in as a head coach, and things that I'm passionate about. We talked about things that I've already answered in regards to offense, defense, special teams. We talked a lot about coaching staff and support staff. And we talked about why I want to be at Carolina, and how much I love this place, and how much I wanted to be the head coach here, and why. So all that went, throughout that. And I hope that my passion for this job showed to President Caslin and Coach Tanner and Chance throughout that process, and that passion resonated with them, because I certainly felt it. It wasn't the first time Coach Tanner and I ever talked on the phone. I had about 10 pages of notes that I wanted to be able to refer to, and I talked to him. I was in my office back in Norman, had the door shut, and had everything spread out across my desk. And we talked on the phone for over an hour that first night. And not one time did I look at a single page of notes, because I was speaking from the heart. And it wasn't something that I all of a sudden had to cram for and prepare for 24 hours. I knew what I felt about this place. I knew what I believed in as a football coach, and what I wanted this program to be about. So I don't want to say it was the easiest interview. That phone conversation wasn't easy. No, Coach Tanner gets tired of me telling this story, but the interview was a 5.5-hour process, and all he gave me was a bottled water the entire time. I didn't eat. I didn't get to stand up and use the restroom. I sat there for 5.5 hours and got grilled. Not like this press conference is right now. So appreciate all you guys staying with me, and being patient, but it was easy, and Coach mentioned it, and I agree. He made the comment as it was wrapping up that we could sit here and talk all night, and I truly felt that way. It was the connection that I had with Coach Tanner and Chance and President Caslin, but then what we were talking about, it was something that I love and is near and dear to my family and I, and it was something that I enjoyed talking about. It wasn't a sell job; it was me being me, and me being real, and me being genuine for sure.
Yeah, just 3 more. Dick Cox with the next one.
Yes. About you as a person, if South Carolina people do not know a whole lot about Shane Beamer, what's the most important thing you want the fans to know about you as a person?
Great question. I'm I'm a family man. Talked about it earlier. My family is so important to me. They're going to be heavily invested in this program. They're going to be around as much as they're allowed to be. When we get going, you're going to see us in the community. We absolutely love this city and want to be involved in the community. We absolutely love this campus and we'll be involved in this campus. And I'm a people person, as is my family. So we're going to be heavily involved. I'm a people person that wants to get out and meet with people. And I hope that my genuineness shows. I talked about it. I'm a high energy guy. Love being around people, high energy, positive, hope to stay consistent, try and treat people right and just live my life in a way that, you know, my wife and children are proud of me when I come home at night, and I'm proud of myself when I look myself in the mirror before I go to bed, and you know, just try and live your life that way. And I've had a lot of people that have reached out just to say, you know, how happy they are for me, and that it's because of, you know, they appreciate how I treated them when I was there at a school, whether they were a walk-on or the starting quarterback. Man, I just try and be consistent, and everybody's the same in my book, and that's what I'm about. And on a little bit of a lower level, I try to be an athletic guy. I enjoy sports. I love to read, love to learn from other coaches. I love to study leadership. I just ordered President Caslin's book during this interview process and started that as well. I'm looking forward to continuing to dive into that, and highly recommend that book if you haven't already gotten it on leadership. And as I did my research on I knew a lot about this school, but obviously my research on President Caslin, and then obviously I knew Coach Tanner, but the amount of people that talked about the people in this program and what these guys are about made me more excited about coming back here and looking forward to working with them.
Michael Lanana.
Hey, Shane. I read a story about you when you were, I guess, 9 or 10 years old, just wearing a Fisher Price headset and pretending to kind of be like your dad and being a head coach. And, you know, obviously you've thought about being a head coach for a while, and just curious, you know, how did you sort of visualize what this day would be like, you know, being a head coach, specifically maybe becoming a head coach at South Carolina, and how has it compared just with the strangeness of COVID-19 and talking to us over Zoom and a computer screen? Just how has it compared, and what were you sort of visualizing?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. You guys are good. Y'all came up with the headphones, the cord in the wall in the garage. You got to name that tune back from Virginia Tech. They got the Fisher Price headsets. But no, I knew I wanted to get into coaching. And when I was young, the house we used to live in Virginia had a pair of the old Fisher Price headsets, and stood on the deck of our house in Blacksburg, Virginia, wore the headset, and I recruited some of the kids in the neighborhood, my sister, her friends, our neighbors. They were the team out there on the field, and I coached them. So I stood up in the press box and called plays down to the other coach on the practice field, and that was my first experience as a coach for sure. So great memories, without a doubt. And like I said, something that I've been preparing for, and you envision how it's going to go. Certainly wasn't like this in my dreams, staring at you guys on a screen and not having my family here, but the excitement and the emotion of being the head coach at South Carolina has only been stronger than what I envisioned it being. Getting that call from Coach Tanner the other night and not knowing exactly what he was going to say, and going in another room, and he wanted to make small talk for 2 or 3 minutes and talk about different things as well. But after a couple minutes, for him to say, "You ready to do this?" Was something that I've been dreaming of hearing for a long time. And to hear him say that was better than I could ever have imagined. And to walk out of that room and see the reaction of my wife and our kids when I shook my head yes and told them that it was real and happening, I'll never forget. And that was a special, special moment that I've been dreaming of for a long, long time. And was really, really cool. And can't put it into words how excited I am.
Last question goes David Conner.
Shane, with Oklahoma, if they should get to the CFP or to any bowl game, will you be with them there?
Yeah, we hadn't talked about that far. My conversations with Coach Riley and Coach Tanner were, let's get through this week. We got West Virginia this week, and then the championship game next Saturday. Let's get through these next 2 weeks, and then we'll see where we are. But I can tell you that I'm eager to be back here and full speed ahead and back in Columbia and not looking back as soon as possible.
All right, with that, we'll let Shane take a breath and sit down and bring up Coach Tanner here for a couple questions real quick.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys and your questions and for being here today and your patience as well. I know that has been a little long, but thank you for the opportunity to visit with you. Looking forward to visiting with you guys and getting to know so many more of you as we go forward, and so excited to be here. Go Cox.
Thank you, Shane.
Thanks, Shane.
Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you guys for you men and women. Thank you for participating today, and I'll be glad to take any questions that you may have.
First one goes to David Cloninger.
Hey, Ray, thanks for doing this. With the bowl game, I know that probably the SEC's got a lot of slots. Maybe they'd prefer everybody fill them. Would USC, I mean, will you guys go if you're in position to go? Will it depend on the health of the team, the roster? I mean, what are all the bells and whistles that have to go into that?
Well, I'll tell you, yesterday I had an opportunity to speak to Mark Womack over at the SEC office. And there's a lot of different scenarios that, have to play out in order for us to be in a position to get the invite. I talked to the team yesterday prior to introducing Coach Beamer to those guys, and we talked about some different scenarios and some opportunities, but there aren't any definites at this point either way. I mean, hopefully we'll remain COVID free. Yesterday's results were very positive. No, I don't mean that. They were negative. They were negative in a positive way. So we'll decide what will happen going forward, but we don't know for sure how it will unfold. And I'm not being evasive. We just don't have the definites. You guys follow it closely about the SEC and who plays up, who's going to be in New Year's Six, who's going to be in the CFP. So it all has to shake out, but we certainly have a lot of bowl commitments as far as the conference is concerned.
Eric Boynton.
Ray, how much does it play in the decision to hire? How much did it play in the decision to hire Coach Beamer and the fact that he has a history here? And obviously, this sounds like this is a place he wants to be for the long haul, whereas you could have brought in another very talented coach who might have seen this as merely a stepping stone to bigger and better things.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's a factor, certainly, when you engage in a coach, whatever the position may be at this university. When you know that somebody's very passionate about the school and for the right reasons, and there was an experience in the past, was that a factor? I would tell you there's a factor. But I also will tell you that this was a very thorough process. And as great as an interview as Coach Beamer had, we continued the process. We continued to try to visit with a lot of different coaches to make sure that we did our very best job and that we were thorough. But we certainly we feel very strongly about we got the right man for all the reasons that you've heard. But he has the leadership qualities. He's done the things he's needed to do in his past to get here today. So I personally am very excited about what he'll bring to our program.
Pete Acabelli.
Ray, you only gave him one bottle of water during 5.5 hours. That's crazy.
Pete, when you're having fun, time flies, brother. I mean, you know that. It's crazy. I got a lot of faults, and that's one of them. Sometimes you get engaged in the conversation, and you forget to eat, you forget to drink. You just keep going, and I haven't missed a lot of meals, but we were in a great conversation that was very passionate. It was engaging. There is A, B, C, D, E, and F, and it wasn't just cross your legs and let's just have a fireside chat about college football. We delved into a lot of different areas, and we just continued to talk. So I should probably apologize publicly that he didn't get any food. I did. A Chance did stick me. He snuck me a Snickers bar a little bit later on, but other than that, it was just a great conversation, and I got a chance to learn a lot about his vision and how he perceived this job going forward.
Ray, can you tell us anything about the contract? How many years is it for?
No, I would prefer not to say anything more about that. Certainly, there's been a conversation, and nothing is formalized until it's approved by our board. And there's a board meeting, I believe, in less maybe 8 days or so from now. It'll be a formal process going to the board of trustees.
Ben Briner.
Hey, Ray, what was the timeline on this? When did you first kind of target and reach out to Shane? And then kind of how did it sort of go and progress leading up to this weekend?
Well, again, I'm not being evasive, but I can't tell you the timeline. I know that I never had a conversation. I never did anything in pursuit of filling this position until I had a conversation with Coach Muschamp. And then after that, things proceeded rather quickly. I don't remember days and nights, but that's certainly been my primary focus since that conversation. And we engaged quickly with a lot of different people throughout the country. I talked to a lot of people that weren't candidates, but about our job and about people that they thought would fit well for this job. I did talk to a lot of our former players. I talked to I had a number of occasions one-on-one with former players. I did, I think, 2 different teams calls where I visited with them, but it just went rather fast. I talked to a lot of different people.
Mitch Brown.
Sorry, I was trying to get this mute going here. But Ray, you said you talked to players, talked to former players, and people of that nature. I know you can't go too into detail about the whole process, but what was the candidate pool looking like as far as diversity goes? I know you had mentioned that you wanted to have a diverse pool there.
It was a diverse candidate pool. Multiple candidates that I met with personally from a diversity pool, and so that was part of our process. We were engaging, and they were face-to-face interviews as well.
Mike Yuba.
Hey, Ray, I know we heard from Coach Beamer talking about it before, but being able to have that opportunity, and I know you as a former coach, I'm sure you would agree, to finish out that opportunity to be able to coach his team through the Big 12 championship. How much was that something that you thought about, and was it really anything that you really thought twice about when he brought that up, and how much support do you have for him to be able to finish that out?
Well, I think he mentioned some things that are very, very important, and he had a discussion with his team yesterday. And when you talk about commitment, dedication, love, trust, and then the word loyalty comes up. He's wearing 2 hats right now. He's the head coach at the University of South Carolina, but certainly, you would expect him, you would want him to be loyal to his current position. So we've had some conversations about what we'll do going forward, and we'll see how the next couple of weeks play out. But those things are important. You can't. I think it would be wrong of us at this university to be selfish and say, stop what you're doing right now and just be with us. Is that the type of person that we would really want to be here? And I know yesterday when he was talking to our team, and he was talking about loyalty, there were a lot of heads that were nodding in his support.
David Conager.
Ray, have you and Will and any other appropriate parties sat down and started negotiating the buyout? And if not, when will that meeting take place?
I'll just say this, that, it hasn't been a situation where I've involved our board leadership, our chairman of the board, and President Caslin. But I've started to have some conversations without those entities being involved, because I don't think we're at a point that I have something to bring to them. So those conversations will be occurring, but otherwise, you guys know what the contract is.
Matt Connolly.
Hey, Ray, I know you mentioned talking to some players and that kind of played into the process, some former players about Shane. Just what did they tell you about him, and what were some of the other reasons that convinced you that he's the right man for the job?
Well, it was just a conversation with a lot of different people that reached out to me. Now, I did engage, like I said, in 2 teams calls with them because they wanted to do it. I think we had nearly 100 on one call, and then we broke it down into a smaller group the next time. And, it's one thing to say, I really like this guy, but it's another thing to say why you really like this guy, and, and what has happened. But it's, this business is relationships, and it is about trust, and it is about earning trust, as Coach Beamer has alluded to. And numerous players reached out to me to share their personal experiences, other than we really adore Shane Beamer. He was great while I was here, but why? And there was some great conversation. So it was, I listened. I believe that, you should listen when you're in my space or President Caslin's space, that people have been in the trenches. They understand. You've been in it together. You've been between the lines. So what they had to say was important to me. Is it the ultimate deciding factor? No, but it's a component that goes into a process of making a decision.
And then could you just to follow up, could you share some of the other things that were maybe the deciding factor, if just some of the reasons you believe in Shane?
Well, I said this earlier, but when you look at his career and the 21 years he's been a coach, and he started out really much like I did, not to compare myself to him because he's much more brighter, better coach than I ever was, but he started right out of college at the same time that I started. He took a path where he's always been a coach. He's been in Power 5 institutions his entire career. And I think the number is, of those 21 years, 17 have been resulted in postseason play in bowl games. Those are things that he's used to, he's accustomed to. He understands expectations. He understands how to get there. And, whether you're, the wide receivers coach or whatever position you may be, I think he's done a little bit of everything. I think he has prepared himself and positioned himself extremely well to handle the reins of being a head coach. So I'm excited about it. As you heard his comments earlier, I think that you probably respect the position that he's been in. He's well prepared to be successful as a head coach.
John Whittle.
Yeah, Ray, thanks for doing this. This is obviously your second time going through a football coaching search process. What kind of qualities changed in terms of importance for you this year? Was there anything that you emphasized this time around or de-emphasized this time around?
Well, I don't think that I would tell you that anything changed. I think we all stand for the same things. Coach Muschamp, you've heard me say many times, I mean, we have a great relationship. We still do today. And, he's already reached out to me in support of Coach Beamer in any way that he could help. So those qualities don't change. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a bottom line business, and we go back to the wins. But the values stand for what they are and the relationships that we've talked about. So I wouldn't say that, I'm looking at things a lot different. I think you've heard what Coach Beamer has to say. What he stands for is important in the culture that he's going to build here.
Let's go to Phil Kornblut.
Hey, Ray. Couple of questions, one on topic and one off the topic. It's pretty obvious the program's in a very low situation right now, very tough situation that Shane is stepping into. Can you dare ask Gamecock fans to be patient and understanding while he tries to build this program? Will they be acceptable of, maybe a tough season or two until he gets it rolling? Number two, have you and Dan Radakovich had a chance to talk about location for the 2021 football game? Thanks.
I think I'll start from the back, but Dan Radakovich and I have spoken a couple of times. We haven't formalized anything. I anticipate that probably our schedules will remain intact as because it would be very difficult for us and them, not just next year, but many years to come if we flip the schedule. But we have not had a formal conversation about that. To talk about asking our fan base to be patient, I think that, and Coach Beamer and I were talking a little earlier this morning that we have expectations and we want to do things sooner than later. I said to him that I never allowed my coaches to talk about rebuilding. We talk about reloading. We want to win now. Is that being unrealistic? Things change. I mean, you've seen, programs, like they always talk in Major League Baseball about worst to first, or a team changes from year to year. So why should we talk about, well, this is a 3, 4, 5, 6 year plan? Well, we want to win next year. You're not going to be able to sit down with a bunch of players and say, hey, you know what? We're going to build this thing. Don't have to have a lot of pressure on you right now. We're going to build this thing up over 3 or 4 years. They want to win now. One of my comments yesterday to the players, should we end up in a bowl game in a few weeks, let's get this thing started the right way. Let's go win. Let's call this our next season. Who knows the date exactly when it'll be, but that's the way we feel about it. Not trying to put any pressure anywhere, but our players' expectations are to win. The season did not go well. Last year wasn't great, but we're not going to say that, well, it's going to take, a long time to build this thing back to where we are. How do you know that? You can't have players on the field or coaches on the field that accept that position. And the last thing, I'll just add a comment. I saw Phil's picture earlier. He looked like a air traffic controller. Phil, you did a pretty good job tracking me. You weren't perfect. You weren't perfect. I think I gave you 78% rating, but that's pretty good. That's a C. So that's pretty good.
That's about typical for me. C.
We'll take 4 more, so if you're not already in the queue, we're not going to be able to get to you. Colin Taylor with the next one.
Yeah, Ray, and just what kind of plan for success did Shane really pitch to you, and what about his plan made that kind of success model attractive to you?
Well, I don't think I need to probably repeat a lot of things that he has said, but obviously his vision, his plan, he's been doing this for a long time. He's been in a lot of different places at a very, very high level of success. He's been with some premier coaches in this country. He talked about his dad a lot. I got a chance to speak to his dad last night. I obviously wanted to call him immediately when we had contacted Shane, but I held back because Coach Frank Beamer is a legend, and I just kind of wanted to have a conversation, but I waited until this became reality, if it was going to be, and we had a great conversation about that last night. So, and I lost my train of thought. What questions you have, Colin?
Oh, sorry, just about his plan for success. What really just sold you on that and made that attractive to you?
Well, the thing that there's a lot of things that stood out, but his preparation. He talked about, you heard his conversation, extremely prepared. At one point, we were asking some questions, and he handed me an iPad that was loaded. He handled Chance Miller an iPad that was loaded. We had our own iPads that he had prepared to show us his plan and where he was headed. We had a lot of conversations about staffing. Certainly, we talked about character, integrity, culture, and those kind of things, but about this building, about the coaches in this building, but also the support staff that we have here. So we went from A to Z, Colin, I can assure you.
Dick Cox.
Have you had a chance to talk to any of the current players, and what was their reaction and excitement with the hire?
Well, I was with Coach Beamer yesterday, and I spoke first to the players. I'm not sure they really knew he was in the building yesterday when I addressed them. We sort of had him over in the corner. Maybe they did at that point, but they received him well, to the point I got a little nervous because as I was finishing my talk about they were going home for some time off, and then he was speaking, and I said, please make sure that you address him at the very end, that we are we're masking. We were distanced. We were actually in the indoor instead of in the office or in our team rooms, because you have more opportunities to social distance. And they had their mask on, and we regretted the fact that we couldn't have conversations maybe more intimately. But when he was finished talking and he said goodbye to him, be safe, almost the whole team ended up trying to have a conversation. And they were very smart about maybe getting that was very inspiring.
We have time for 2 more. Gene, then Ben. Gene.
Hey, Ray, you're getting a little bit of a good sticker price on this coach relative to what going rate might be in the SEC. Did that influence you deciding to choose Shane?
Absolutely not. I mean, our commitment was that we have invested in our resources and our commitment here at this university and our football program and our other sports. And, we have a fan base that has expectations, and we weren't, that it's important. We're in a year of COVID. There is a deficit in athletics for the first time, maybe in, 16 or 17 years. So we're experiencing a situation that is not ideal, but yet, the football budget is what it is, and we want to move forward. So that was a consideration. And I'll say this about Coach Beamer. When we start talking about staffing, he never, not once, mentioned himself. He never, ever brought that up. I had to eventually have that conversation. He didn't. His whole conversation was about his staffing. and what limits we may have or not have. And of course, the answer was we want to accommodate you to hire the people that you want to be around you to be successful. So, you called it a bargain, Gene. That wasn't a prerequisite whatsoever.
Last question goes to Ben Briner.
Ray, when you're interviewing a coach that hasn't had either that coordinator experience or that head coach experience, how much, I guess, projection kind of goes into that? How I guess, different and maybe trickier is that? And does that, I guess, for you as an AD, maybe leave you with a little bit less of a net because it is a little bit more of an unknown to kind of the world outside perception-wise?
I think that's a really good question. I mean, I think that, in the football world, I came from a different place, but in the football world, you go out and sign a 4-star or a 5-star, right? Is he going to play like a 2-star or is he going to play like a 5-star? Is a 2-star going to play like a 4-star or a 2-star? And, I think that when you look at coaches, there are no guarantees. There's been a lot of coaches that have had good years but couldn't sustain anything. And, maybe they were well qualified or well positioned, but it didn't guarantee you success. It might have got you a good year or so, but it's important that you get the right person. And sustaining success in sports is one of the hardest things you can do. You can win, you can have a run. Sustaining it is really, really difficult, even for the very best programs across all sports. I'll tell you this, you can talk about the X and O's, and you can use all the words you want to. But from my vantage point, when I sit down with an administrator, somebody on my staff, or a coach, one thing that I always try to look into is there an edge? Is there an edge? Is there an intangible quality that is going to give them an opportunity to separate themselves? And I felt very strongly about Shane Beamer when we had the chance to visit on phone and in person, that there is an intangible, there's an edge. The preparation, the experience certainly is there. But do you have those other two traits? And that they were very important to me.
All right. Thank you, Coach Tanner. And with that, we will wrap it up. We'll, just so you're all aware, we are going to take a few photos here that we'll send out as well, like we did yesterday. So you'll have those if you need to access those as well.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Ray.